Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. You've got your main man here, Howard Greenberg. Going to talk about what's going on in the markets so far. It's a big day today, and things are looking pretty good so far. We just got GDP data. We got jobless claims. We'll go through some of those. We are seeing a little bit of a mixed bag across markets again. QQQ so far set to open up about 56 basis points. SPY looking here to open up about 25 basis points. So we're starting off pretty good there. Let's take a look at the markets a little bit more here in the indices. As we look overnight to see what happened overseas, the Nikkei rebounded very nicely here, up about 20 basis points. A little bit of a mixed bag over there. One of the big losers was 7&I. Anyone who shops at 7-Elevens around the U.S., that is their brand. They did not be able, the family that controlled it and started, I guess you would say, 7-Eleven, was looking to buy it out, and they're struggling to find the money to do so. Nissan was up pretty nicely on news of a CEO shakeup. And we did see a little bit of talk about NVIDIA there, believe it or not, in Japan, where we saw a couple of, especially Tokyo Electron, get a little bit of love based upon NVIDIA's AI growth there. So that looked pretty good. In Europe, we saw really auto stocks causing a little bit of a downturn there, although they have finished up about 20. Oh, no, they're down 59 basis points there. That's right. I just hit the wrong button there. Sorry. They're down about 59 basis points here. And auto stocks were really moving that. BMW down about 2.6%. Stellantis down 3%. Porsche down 2.5%. And Ferrari was down really big, 7.6%. Rolls-Royce did have an earnings beat and was up 15% today. Talk about them starting to, regain a little bit of momentum there, has them moving in the right direction here today. As we start to look around the U.S., the big news yesterday, of course, was led by NVIDIA. They did beat expectations, had good earnings in general, good forward guidance in general, up about 2.06%. And as we look here at the Mag 7 in general, outside of Apple, all of them looking to open up in the green so far. But NVIDIA had good earnings and showed strong AI chip demand. It was interesting to watch, though, sort of from the sidelines here. If I can find, let's get there. On the 1-minute chart, you can see the volatility that happened yesterday on earnings, and it shows the dysfunction sort of and the disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street. If you can see here, and this wick here, you really saw a move between a low of 126 and a high of 136, a $10 swing in a matter of minutes yesterday. So it shows, as we've seen with there. Hey, Mr. Flanagan, how are you doing? Yeah, NVIDIA bounce. That's what I'm starting with here, my friend. I'm with you there. NVIDIA, nice little bounce up to the upside here. And DXY, when I was looking at it, it was sort of seemed to me like DXY hadn't really done much before the 8:30. Now it's moving up tremendously. It hadn't done much more before the 8:30 news economic data came out. So it is making a little bit of a move since then. It had been fairly stuck in that 106.6 area before that. Now making a move back up towards 107 here. So we'll see. It did break that zone that Mr. Flanagan has talked about with us here on the show so much. That 106.8, 106.9 area did get above that. So it does look like King Dollar trying to stick its head back out to the top side here. We'll see how that works. If we get this to hold on throughout the day. China rally sort of reversing also. They are up about 23 basis points on the Shanghai. But the U.S. ADR, as I noticed, was a mixed bag today of what was up and down out of. In fact, BABA now has gone positive. It was negative earlier. So it does look like China is getting a little bit of love here this morning also, as they now seem to be moving up. Most of them, they had been a mixed bag there. Good morning, Ron. Hope you're doing well, everybody. As we start to look through, though, Snowflake, another nice big winner overnight. I will say it is interesting to see there was a huge swath of stocks. When I say this, I did get a question from you, Ron, earlier this morning is what do I do? What do I sort of look up to start my day? So I will tell you the first thing that I pull up is a screener that I have here on TradingView. And what I do is I take a look at the pre-market changes. I do break it off at a market cap at 2 billion or above. I don't want to see the penny pumpers on this. I'm more looking for the bigger stocks, bigger names. I start here and then I start to break it down from this. But this is the first thing that I look at in the morning in general when it comes to U.S. stocks is I take a general look, what's up, what's down. So as we can see today, some of my favorite stocks are up, actually. The Bitcoin mining stocks. As people know, Mara, I'm a big fan of Mara. They had a nice move up here, about 13.65%. Core Scientific, which is one that I would say is a mixed bag. Core Scientific started off as strictly a Bitcoin mining company. They have now evolved and have moved more into data centers along with Bitcoin mining. But both of those had great earnings, up about 20% for Core Scientific. Nutanix, another one up nicely here, just jumped above Mara. It's been moving up here. I did have some news on them here. Let me find that. They had better than expected earnings. I actually had a little bit of a bigger breakdown, I believe, on that. Let me find it. Sorry when I'm here solo today. BigBeat is traveling today, so he is not going to be in here today. It gets a little harder for me to find my stuff, so give me 1 second here. If I can find Nutanix, I cannot off the top of my head, so we'll move on. But they're up. Mara's up. Opera up about 10%. And it's been a mixed bag. VST, which we know they had good earnings, a nuclear company there. They posted a net income of 490 million. I do have a little bit of notes on all of these here. Here's Vistra. It was up 6.6%, now up even a little bit more there. AI names are catching a little bit of a buzz today. You got Sound, S-O-U-N, which we know is SoundHound AI, up about 6.37%. So we are seeing some of the ones that got beat up pretty badly yesterday moving in the opposite direction today. Robinhood, again, one that I brought up yesterday that I liked buying on the dip yesterday. Nice little move up here now at 51.40. I said that yesterday when it was down in that 45 area that I did like it because, you know, one of the things I've pointed out is that both Robinhood and Coinbase seem to get beat up when the price of Bitcoin and crypto drops, but that doesn't make any sense because they don't necessarily own the Bitcoin. They're there for the trading of Bitcoin. So when you see those big moves one way or the other, they're winning because transactions are going through the roof. That's what's moving the market, and they win in those cases. And it usually takes about a day or two for people to sort of get their wits about them, and then you do see a bounce back. I did notice I don't have coin here on my list, but they were up nicely earlier also. So one of those ones to keep an eye on that I like. It's a good little scalp move when you see those move down on the fact that crypto moved down. You know, remember, they're not owners of crypto necessarily. I mean, they both probably have them somewhere in their treasuries or other place, but their main business is being the broker dealer, the trading house that facilitates the trading of those, so they don't necessarily lose. And again, you can see their Coinbase up about 3% today. I know Steve is about to leave for a cruise, and NCLH on that news is up 3.79. I joke because he travels on a Royal Caribbean usually, but they're up about 3.79 here. Again, they had earnings, so nice little move up. They posted a net income of 254.5 million for Q4, up from a loss a year earlier, and their full revenue hit was 9.5 billion, which was a record increase of 11%. So we do see that. I will mention too, in today's economic data that came out, a lot of the consumer spending that we were seeing move to the upside was happening in travel. So a lot of other areas were not seeing that, and it was really travel that was moving it. We do see, again, a little talk about, again, the disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street. We had WPP, one of declining ad revenues, and they talked about, and if you don't know, WPP is one of the world's largest advertising companies, and they pointed to a lot of the companies that are sort of not advertising as much. Some of those were Domino's, Krispy Kreme, Home Depot. So again, showing that the little bit of a weakness maybe in the economy there. Another one I want to point out that I mentioned yesterday that I liked as a sympathy play, right, on if NVIDIA had good earnings was Marvell, and, up about 5% since I said that yesterday. So again, we are giving you guys some theses to look at here every morning. So that's what we try to do here. Another one that bounced back nicely I saw was Walgreens overnight. They had beat up again yesterday. They had dropped down from about 11.50 to below 11 at one point, 10.96, up about 6.61% here in the pre-market movers. Wasn't a lot to the downside, and a lot of the ones that I did have on the downside have actually closed that gap now. But one of the bigger losers was AAON, the industrial machinery company. They talked about they work in data centers, and this was an interesting one for me. I do want to pull up the information I had here on them. There it is. Because what they talked about, AAON, if you don't know, they are big into HVAC solutions, and cooling for data centers is some of their big business. They talked about their Oklahoma semi-custom HVAC solution being down 4.4%, that their coil products were doing really well, up 25%, and they pointed out that their high-performance cooling for data centers, which is called BASX, was up 25%. But what they did talk about was the big boys are coming into play. They said that it is becoming a much more competitive market, facing the industry giants that have more resources. So, while it's always fun to try to look for the smaller companies, Steve talked about this yesterday, right? He is a big proponent in best of class. And I always talk about that when it comes to the crypto side, right? So best of class, keep that in mind. Those are the companies that I'm looking at, personally. And part of that is it seems to be, we're in an area where having that largeness, having money on the sidelines, not having to go to banks to get money is going to be an advantage that some of the big boys have, that some of these smaller startups in the data center area and stuff don't. So if we're looking at HVAC and saying, okay, Howard, you don't like AAON, but who maybe is a player on the other side of that would be like Carrier, right? CARR. Again, another company that does a huge amount of cooling in HVAC, and you can see they're down. They were down yesterday on their earnings, but this is one maybe to take a look at as a leader in class when it comes to that area. Other companies beat up so far today. eBay getting hit pretty hard here, down about 9%. And again, their earnings were $1.25 EPS on $2.58 billion, which were slightly ahead of forecasts, but they dropped on week Q1 225 revenue. So again, we're seeing that across the board. Earnings have been pretty good. The back, as Mr. Flanagan talks about, looking in the rearview mirror, some of these things are looking pretty good, but what seems to be weighing on the markets a little bit has been forward guidance. We'll point out, and I'm interested to see if it's still the case, gold had taken a little bit of a fallback too. Yeah, down almost 1% here. We have seen that, happen here. Again, it's not just crypto that saw the big sell-off. Not nearly as much in gold, but from the high of 956 back down to 28.89, down almost $100 from where it was. Silver holding up a little bit better, but again, we were pushing 33 the other day and now back below the 32 handle there. So keep that in mind. As I mentioned, SPY is looking to open up to the positive here, and it has been, since 9 o'clock, still moving to the upside here. Tick, I noticed, is negative currently, but the advanced decline is in that in between zone, 1629, right? We talk about that. That could go straight to neutral, or it could jump up to plus 3,000 here when we open in 15 minutes. So something to keep an eye on. So we'll see, did this economic data move the market one way or the other? I think we'll find out fairly quickly here on that. And again, so far, pre-market, most of the things that we watch seem to be in the green, looking pretty good. NVIDIA, the Mag 7, like I said, NVIDIA back above 134 here, trying to make a move. It had gotten up above 135 earlier, but pulling back a little bit here. You can see 135.11 is what I've sort of marked here on the hourly as the area that I'm watching here today. It was where we got stuck on Monday. And I want to see if we can get through that. Basically, NVIDIA has not been able to hold above the 135 handle for most of the week here. So I think we're going to need that to see a bullish continuation finish playing out today. Nice bounce back by Tesla here. Really one that's been getting absolutely, smacked around lately. It has jumped back a little bit here today. It had a 5-day losing streak here that showed it losing almost 20% of its market cap, but up a little bit here today, 1.65%. Amazon moving up today. A lot of Amazon movement probably based, I haven't played around with it, but they released their AI version of Alexa. So that has them again above that key area that I was watching here at 215.89. Need to stay above that 215.89 in my opinion here. You can see, and we will have, I do want to mention at 10 o'clock, we do have Mark Petrino coming in, one of our favorite technical analysts, a charted market technician coming in to talk, and he'll be showing us all the charts at 10 o'clock. But you can see I had put this mark out too, because you can see what had been resistance, right? Later, turn to support. And we can see in that area right here, right? We fell through it. We regained it. Now, can we hold above that? And why is that so important? It is a big psychological area where people who sold when it hit that spot up here are saying, you know what? I missed out on that run to 240. I want to get in it this time, so I'm buying back my shares here. Maybe they bought them back even when it was lower, and that's what pushed it back above that. But we want to see if this now becomes support again. If it does, it gives you a good entry here for Amazon to keep an eye on. So that's what I'm watching there. I've marked a bunch of these off a little bit here to see some spots that I liked. Google, that one's a little bit tougher here. I got to see Google regain that 179.68 area and at least get above the 200-day MA to feel a little bit better there. But I will point out that, again, we talked about this yesterday. Outside of this one area here in the middle of September last year, you don't see it spend more than a minute or two really under that 200-day MA. So, Google's one that I start to like in this area. Again, I'd want to see it regain that 200-day MA. I'm not going to chase it in this area. Let's see it regain that 200-day MA. And then, patience, I do think, is still a virtue here. I am not jumping in this morning and buying with both hands. I was more of a little bit of a buyer on the dips yesterday on a couple of things, more than looking to catch them here today. I want to see how the market plays out. We still have, PCE data comes out tomorrow. I think that is going to be, the next big thing to keep an eye on. We do have some nice earnings after market today. We do have Dell, Autodesk, Monster, HP, Rocket Companies, Rocket Labs, Duolingo, and NetApp all scheduled for earnings reports after the bell today. So we'll keep an eye there on some of those and see if we can put together some good spots. Do we like them? Do we not like them? In fact, those are some of the ones that I'm going to ask Mark Petrino about at 10 o'clock. So you'll have to tune in later for those, get him to pull those up and see what he's thinking there. Tick has gone slightly negative here still. QQQ, big winner so far, up 0.7. Chips being the big proponent here. Another one I've got to say that, starting to take a thesis on is ASML starts to get interesting to me. I do think, they're one of the 3 or 4 largest companies in Europe. If you are starting to believe in what they're now calling the mega make Europe great again, I've been reading that that acronym lately. I think here again, any kind of break above this 775, 780 area starts to make it interesting for a full, for recovery here. This is a stock that was trading at well over $1,000, back mid last year. And as Europe has gotten beaten up. But the bottom line for me is for Europe's recovery to continue, ASML needs to be one of the leaders of it. So if we do start to think that Europe is going to make a move back up, ASML would be one to take a look at, in my personal opinion there. But again, NVIDIA up 2.5%, AVGO up 2.2%. Like I said, Marvell was the one I was watching, up 3.4%. I am already out of that position. I got in and out pretty quickly there on that. And that's what I was looking at here. Banks today also all were sort of moving to the upside. So we're seeing a little bit of a recovery by financials. And I'll point out some of the Japanese ones were moving pretty well today. The ones I've mentioned here on the show a lot, MUFG, which is Mitsubishi Financial Group, SMFG, which is Sumitomo, both up over 1% here today, sort of leading the financials. So again, Japan, Mr. Flanagan turned us onto those. And after looking at what Mr. Buffett invests in, that is one that I sort of pushed there. Seeing from Ron here, Riley Pumping, RILY. Not that familiar with them. B. Riley Financial, I am familiar with them. Let's see what's going on there. It looks like they secured a $160 million debt facility from Oak Tree Capital using $11 billion to repay some Nomura debt. So it looks like they were able to restructure some debt that they had, has them up 28% here. Wow. Let's take a look at that daily chart here. Again, this is one that gapped down tremendously when they announced on their earnings report that they were having problems. Now on these earnings reports, looks like they want to move up. So nice move by B. Riley. Good catch there, Ron. That's an interesting one. Let's see what else is moving here that I wanted to talk about today. What we talked about? It was interesting. Urban Outfitters actually had some nice earnings. So we are again seeing some consumer, discretionary and stores, e-commerce that are getting, some decent reports here. So Urban Outfitters, with a nice little beat here and up 4.2%. We'll say again, we're going to the moon, and those stocks continuing to move up here. Lunar up now 4% today. And then a rebound play, AppLovin, which we know got destroyed yesterday. A nice little rebound today, up about 3.98%. I mentioned the crypto mining company is again another one. Riot up 5.48%. Energy was still moving up today a little bit too. Talon Energy up about 3.7% after being up 2.89%. I saw NRG up again another 3.24% today. So we do see energy moving back to the upside there. So it's good to see that continuation keep on. Tick still negative here. So we are seeing a little bit of a slippage here. It looks to be more on the SPY than QQQ, at least so far. Gold trying to break back above 29, but stuck at 28.91. Bitcoin at 85.7, still weak here. I did mention that 85 area. It went all the way down to 200-day MA, which we said it could. So it did get all the way down to 82 here before bouncing back. Need to see it hold above that 85.720 area or 85.336 area that I marked here on the charts. That's sort of the key area for me to watch today for Bitcoin to remain positive on the day. Tick still sliding down negative here. VIX has dropped back down to about 1806. It spiked yesterday a couple of times, but again, moving a little bit to the downside. So after NVIDIA, it's interesting it's moving down here before the PCE data comes out tomorrow. We did see also a lot of talk out of the ECB overnight. I did have that. Where did I have that? Here it is, ECB minute summaries. Here we go. The ECB minute recap. The 25 basis point rate cut that they had was a unanimous decision. They did warn that the neutral rate will be higher than pre-pandemic. We've talked about that a lot here, right? You need the Fed in the U.S. to have levers to move to the up or downside, so you're not going back to zero rates anytime soon, or probably hopefully never. Policy will still be restrictive, but nearing neutrality. Growth risks remain tilted downward, and food and energy price risks are what they seem to be worried the most about. So we'll see what they say there. I am seeing in the U.S. now that, it's basically about a 55 basis points move now that they're expecting the Fed to be dovish there, and that we could look for about a 55 basis point move to the downside when it comes there. It was being reflected a little bit in the 10 and 30 year earlier. I'm curious, not really right now as much. 10 years back approaching, trying to break back above the 4.3 level. It had gotten down as low as 4.26 yesterday, I believe. And then the 30-year back right at about 4.55. And again, that got down as low as 4.5. So we are seeing rates bounce back a little bit after today's, jobless numbers. I didn't bring those up, did I? Jobless numbers. Here we go. Jobless claims did hit a 3-month high. We had about 242,000 new claims, which is more than last week by about 22K. And they say that some of these could be the federal layoffs kicking in, but the private sector is still adding jobs. Labor market steady, they're saying. Again, we're not hearing that on the street. We have, within Quasar, some folks that work in that, in the employment industry in a high level way, and they're saying they're not seeing that in the private sector much. What was good though is continuing claims did come down a little bit, about 5K. So some people are finding jobs that didn't have them. So we'll see what happens there, but it hasn't been all rosy. And stocks are also getting hit today. Moderna was one of them, down about 2.86%. That's on reports that the U.S. government is reconsidering its $590 million bird flu vaccine contract. So again, as Doge seems to raise its head in places, it can spook the market a little bit. It seems to be that way when it's coming to Moderna right now. We'll also point out Salesforce down about 4.4% here after their revenue beat, but weaker guidance for again for 2025. So we're seeing, this across the board tends to be a little bit of a steady story that we keep running into, and that story is, last year was pretty good, but we don't expect it to continue. So we'll see if anything can change that, if PCE data tomorrow can make that move a little bit, but that seems to be the overlying play here. I will say SMCI did take a little bit of a pullback here. They did hit, they did solve their delisting concerns, but again, down about 3.82%. But with that being said, they had made a huge run up here over the last, week or two, without a doubt, getting as high as 66.34. But again, back down now and below the 50 level here, back below the 200-day MA. So it looks like that euphoria from them, becoming compliant didn't carry over. We'll mention Melco, Chinese gambling company that Steve's a big fan of, that we ran a lot during COVID for nice runs. They did have weak earnings and adjusted losses, and they're down pretty significantly, 5.76%. Haven't looked yet at this move MGM or any of the others down. Let's take a look. It seemed to be more set to them specifically because it was an impairment they received. It wasn't necessarily on guidance. There now, MGM up about 6.5. Let's see what Caesars is doing. Isn't it? I forget. Let's see. If I could spell, it would help. There we go. And Caesar's pretty neutral. So that seems to be not across broadly the gambling sector. It seems to be more set directly on them. We are less than a minute from the open here. I'm going to watch QQQ on the open to see where we get here on the 1 minute. As we get ready to open here, we're at 518.31. So we will see, do we get the first few ticks to the upside or downside here? What does the market do as we get set here? And we are open first. Oof, down 500, down 600 on the tick. QQQ dropping back below 518 here, back to 517.86. Take a quick look at what's going on across NVIDIA on the open. NVIDIA's first move is to the downside also. So we do see a little profit taken here. Again, the first few seconds, don't get psyched out. Microsoft, a nice move to the upside here off the open. Well, broke across 402, breaking across 403. Nice little move up by Microsoft here on the open. 503.35. Wow, nice little move there. See what Google's doing. Google opening up to the downside. First couple of ticks. Amazon, another one, like I said, with that release of Alexa AI, moving up nicely to the upside here, 219.41. So none of them are really running yet. They're more holding ground. Let's see if anything starts to run here on a Meta moving up again, up about $2.1% there. Tick is still negative. Advanced decline is positive at 500. That's not that great though. So we'll keep an eye on that. That could turn quickly. Bitcoin did regain 86 here on that news, so up about 2.52%. QQQ dropped a little bit since the open, about 10 basis points. SPY, more neutral. It was up about 47, now up 36, so down about 10 basis points there. Not a big move one way or the other there. Ron pointed out Howard Hughes moving up. You've been all over that one lately, Ron. Up about 2.33% here on the open. Although I will say on lightly traded volume, only about 3,000 shares so far there, Ron. So one thing with that one I've noticed is HHH, while, there's a lot going on there on a fundamental level. And for those that don't know, that is the company that Bill Ackerman is going to use to try to recreate what Berkshire Hathaway does, become sort of a private equity fund / investment vehicle that buys corporations and such. It hasn't really moved the needle too much here, and definitely seems to be dropping down so far this morning. Tick still negative. Advanced decline moving to the downside so far. QQQ is holding up nicely. Dow Jones has opened up 25 basis points here and at the highs of the day. So Dow is moving in the right direction so far. Ruck fairly flat, only up about 6 basis points. Let's keep an eye. Bitcoin can hold the 86,000 level. Looks like it might drop right back below that here. Gold couldn't get above 2,900 on the open. That was sort of the area I was looking at there. Do see a nice move up by a firm today. Again, the buy now, pay later, up about 2.5% here this morning. Amazon up 1.82%. ASTS, again, we're going to the moon, up 6.79%, 6.9. Nice little move up there. Broadband up 2.4%. So we got nice moves to the upside there. Best Buy down about 1.44%. I did notice also that there was an earnings miss by Bath and Body Works. That's what, BBWI, if I'm not mistaken. Bath and Body Works down about 8% here. And again, they had poor earnings. And basically, net income was $453 million versus $579 million a year ago. Do you see Brown-Forman down almost a percentage point here? We had seen them move up. We've seen the liquor companies move up over the last week or so, so they are moving to the downside. Berkshire Hathaway up about 0.6 of a percentage point. They have been moving up over the last month or so pretty nicely here. Again, they were down as low as 440, up, broke 500 yesterday, pulling back a little bit. CEG, so the energy company, is still moving up about 2.22% here this morning. Coinbase up 3.46%. So we do see some risers so far this morning. Taking a look here to see what's coming across the wires. That's an interesting one from Bloomberg. Private equity firms face a sobering reckoning on their renewable energy bets. I am sure that sector is definitely not a sector you want to be in right now for the next couple of years, anyways. Trying to see what else here is hitting it. Still negative, so we're still sliding there. Advanced decline now down. We're just up about 278. So we are seeing across the broader market a little bit of a sell-off. Mag 7, though, all leading the markets to the green here, all of them up. But that being said, again, NVIDIA can't hold that support and now broke down from 135 to 131 here. So giving up most of its gains here, could go neutral on the day here. Apple up almost a half a percentage point. Microsoft, like I said, it's the one that was running first here, up about 1.18%. Google now up 72 basis points. Amazon, the big winner, up 2.07%, along with Tesla, which is moving to the upside still. Tesla's got to break above that 300 level and hold. If it does that, I do like Tesla here. I want to see it break that 300 and hold there. Same thing with Netflix. We got to break 1,000 and hold. Where everything, we got a lot of things that are at key areas here where they faced either historical resistance in the past or those round numbers that tend to be hard to break through. So we'll see here if we can get something moving. Tick is trying to go positive here, now only down 100. VIX is holding steady at about 18, so that hasn't spiked at all yet this morning. QQQ continuing to move to the upside now, 518.80. It couldn't break 519, tried to get there, 518.99, a high of the day, but looking pretty good so far. RUT, not so much. It is pretty flat on the day. SPY is now moving up too, now up 57 basis points. Just got to a high of 597.86. Pulled back a little bit from there, and the Dow almost up 40 basis points, so it's moving up also. So we are seeing a little bit of a broad market recovery here today. Let's see if we can keep this going. JP Morgan up 1.07% here so far today. Take a close look at restaurant stocks. Again, it's mostly the restaurant stocks that are gaining today are all the fast food companies. You got McDonald's, Chipotle, Yum, QSR, Yum China. Those are the ones that are moving up. It looks like it's a little bit weaker on the better restaurants there. Let's take a look at steel today. Sliding a little bit. So that's where we're losing a little bit. U.S. Steel, we see Cleveland Cliffs down about 76 basis points. We see CMC, which is Commercial Metals Company, down about 1.86. We see Worthington down about 1.07. Fluor down 1.47. So we're seeing steel being a little weak. Let's take a look at the Spider Selects. And we do see that XLU, which is utilities, is down about 25 basis points. Otherwise, all of the 10 of the other Spider Selects to the upside. So it is a broad market move to the upside here. Financials are actually leading the way, up at 96 basis points. XLC, it looks like, is next, which is the communication sector, up 83. I wonder if we know AT&T had a pretty good day yesterday, up another half a percentage point here, so they are moving to the upside a little bit. Tick is still negative, down 200, so an advanced decline is now only at 317. So while the indices seem to be moving to the upside, it is the small market cap that's getting hit here, the RUT, as we call it, which is the Russell Small Cap Index. You can see it sliding down here. So it does seem that is the sector under the most pressure so far. Bitcoin unable to hold that 86K level here while it is up a couple of points today. Still unable to hold above 86. Same thing, gold unable to regain 29 so far. WTI, again, not able to regain 70 yet. It has been moving to the upside today, though, up about 1.65%. So we'll keep an eye there. Let's see what the Dixie's doing. DXY continuing to move up here to the upside. So King Dollar continuing to be the lead of the day. It's at pretty much the high of the day at 107.12. So we are seeing King Dollar take control here. The euro down about 57 basis points versus the dollar back at 104.239. And the UK sterling down also 35 basis points. Yen also 150.10 here. So still in the middle zone there, not much to see. Tick still negative, down 300. Advanced decline down to 170. So we are continuing to see a drop. QQQ just got hit real hard here. Now only up 40 basis points. So let's see here. That's got to be the Mag 7 changing. Oh, NVIDIA at 130 here. So NVIDIA tanking as we're watching here. Now down at that 130 level here. Take a look at that. You know, that's sort of the zone. It's supports right at that 129.04 area. It did wick below that here last night. Let's see if it can hold. That's the area I've sort of marked in the sand on the hourly chart that I'm keeping an eye on, that 129.04 area. So we'll keep an eye on that. Just seeing if there's anything else coming across here. Nothing too big. Wow, NVIDIA lost that 130 handle coming right. It looks like it's going to come right to this 129.04 area. So we'll keep an eye on that. That does look like the spot to watch here. Any kind of break below that, you've got downside at least to 125 here. So 129.49 key area to watch. The rest of the Mag 7's holding up okay. Google, though, looks like it could go negative here. Netflix unable to break that $1,000 like we talked about. Tesla unable to hold that 300 handle. So again, those numbers, the key resistance still seems to be holding in place. We haven't, NVIDIA's earnings didn't give us the move up that we were wanting to see there that would push the whole market through. So we'll see if we get a little bit of a bounce back, but it doesn't look it. It did bounce almost right at that 129.04. I've got Mark got down to 129.21 here. So that's the spot to keep an eye on here. Apple, let's see what we got going on there. Holding above the 50-day MA here. That's been the key for that one. Take my drawings off here. And Google has gone negative here. Netflix negative. So we are seeing tick now back negative 353. Advanced decline at 120. So we are still seeing downside moves here across the board. Not a good start so far. Seeing that the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City President Jeff Schmid sounded a warning about rising inflation expectations and concerns over economic growth, cautioning that the U.S. Central Bank may be soon to confront both. I'll post that up here for us. Tick still negative 400. Advanced declines now gone negative 400. So we are quickly QQQ now in the negative on the day. That NVIDIA is definitely dragging that down without a doubt. RUT's down now 24 basis points here. So we're not seeing the move up. We're not seeing it go into gold. It seems to be going into the King Dollar. DXY is the big winner so far that I'm seeing here. VIX is jumped up back up to 1885. So volatility is coming back into the markets again today. Advanced decline now down 464. So a quick sell-off here. And I don't know that there's anything that changes that sort of tune until we get to PCE tomorrow. QQQ did go back to the positive side here. See what the chip sector is doing in general, and you can see, wow, look at the red across the chip sector. When we looked at this just before the open, all of these outside of ASML was green, right? Now when we look at it, all of the chips outside of Intel are in the red, and a lot of them over 1 percentage point. TSM over 2 percentage points to the downside here. NVIDIA 1.5% to the downside. So chips, technology definitely weighing. Let's take a look at the technology sector on here. XL. Okay, yep, there it is, down 35 basis points. So again, XLK had been one of the early leaders in the pre-market, moving to the downside. As I look at the crypto markets, Bitcoin back at 85.6, so couldn't get above 86 there, dropping back down. Looking at the alts in general, most of them up. Polkadot, the big winner today, up 6.94%. Solana stuck, can't get through that 140 again. I know Steve's been in that trade. It seems to be stuck there. Advanced decline coming closer to neutral, now going positive here. So can we get a little bit of momentum? We'll see. QQQs have bounced back into the positive, now up 17 basis points. As the Mag 7 is again outside of Google and NVIDIA leading the way here a little bit. Tesla's pulled back here now at 291. It's threatened to go negative again for what would be the, I think, 6th day in a row if Tesla finishes negative here. And you can see it's been on a steady decline here since it hit a high in mid-December. NVIDIA does seem to be trying to battle back above 130 here, so that 129.04 did hold, got briefly below it to 128.63, but we can see it wicked back above it and holding up pretty well so far. It's amazing how quick everything's changing. I'm looking at tweets saying how the tech sector is leading the day today, as we've just noticed that it's gone negative in that time frame. So it is amazing as to how quick the market is moving today. It is trying to go back at least to neutral here. It's down about 15 basis points, the technology sector. So be careful what you put in print these days, because things are moving quickly across the markets. Tick has gone positive here. Advanced decline looks like it wants to start to go to the positive side also. Dow Jones leading the way now, up 53 basis points. So we're seeing a change there with the Dow continuing to rise since the 9:30 open, pretty much straight across the board. So that's what's been holding up so far. SPY up 25 basis points. It was up as high as 598 earlier, back down at 596 here. So given up $2. And again, QQQ we know had gotten up above 519, back at this 515 level. Gold continuing to drop a little bit here, also 2870. Bitcoin continuing to drop, also 2085,400. Tick hasn't been able to go positive. VIX is moving up at 1864. Let's see what we see here. So we've seen the Chinese names sort of turn over here today. Alibaba now down 1.29%. Baidu down 64 basis points. JD has just gone negative on the day, so we are seeing that move to the downside here across a lot of those names. Where's PDD? PDD -2, also 1.19%. Palantir holding up pretty well here, up 1.32% today. Snowflake, one of the big winners, up 8.48. So the tech sector that seems to be holding up is software so far. Let's see in today's pumpers what has sort of moved or changed. And you can see how different the cash market hours can be versus the others. Ambarella, which we know is another semiconductor company, was up tremendously. Pre-market hours was up around 81.17 here. We've opened it. It is just shot down. Now down at 72.05. So this was in our pre-market gainers. Now moving to the other side. Same thing. CORZ, we know, had been up around 11.87. It's pulled back to 11.25. That is a data center and crypto mining company. Mara holding up really nicely here, up about 12%. It looks like right now 13.96 here. I do think it has upside towards this 1760 area here. I am a fan of Mara in this location. So one I definitely like personally. We'll say CPRX, which is Catalyst Pharmaceuticals, up nicely here, up 12% today. They did have earnings yesterday, so this is up on, they gapped up on earnings and continuing to move up here. So that's nice to see. Talked about it earlier. WBA, which is Walgreens, is up 5.43% today and recovering a little bit here. Vistra gave up its gains too. So a lot of the tech names that were winning, and this is a nuclear name more than a tech name, but it seems to rise and fall on the semiconductor news. Vistra now down 1.2%. Same thing, SOUN, SoundHound AI, which was up in the pre-market, moving to the downside. Robinhood is holding up pretty well, still up 3.62%. It was up earlier by even more at that 52.81. It's actually at the lows of the cash market hours. Again, another one that's turned completely to the downside too, CRDO, Credo Technology, and you can see that move down here in the 9 o'clock hour. Again, this was a pre-market pumper to the upside. So some of the pre-market pumpers, the upside moving down. Same thing. Wow, NCLH, what a sell-off there. We're seeing man, you just be wary out there. These sell-offs are quick and furious. I mean, look at that hourly wick here. It was trading at $26 on the open, now down at 23.83. So more than a 10% move to the downside from where upside has been. Tempest AI, another AI name, now down 1.59. It had been up in the pre-market hours. NRG is moving more towards neutral. It had been up nicely in the pre-market hours. Same thing, Coinbase is now negative. It had been up in the pre-market hours. Palantir was, we just talked about it, it would have been a high flyer right now, only up 28 basis points. Marvell, I'm happy I got out when it was up 3.2%. Now down 1%. That's the other reason why we say you've got to be really nimble in this market right now. You can't be holding on, waiting for, things to turn around to the upside or playing continuation. You get that profit, you hit that thing, you take it and run right now. Continuing to slide to the negative side, though, Moderna here at pretty much lows of the day here, 31.19. CRM has bounced back a little bit here. It was as low as 292, now back at 295.90. The one that's continuing to slide, it looks like, to the downside. It isn't at its lows of the day, but SMCI has lost 8.45% here towards the lows of its day. Again, tick still negative, advanced decline, now down 500. So the sell-off is continuing across the markets here. I see our boy Jim Cramer saying tariffs are too hard to calculate. I think he's saying that's what's hurting the market here. I can't argue with that. The tweet analysis is more important than technical analysis in the way the market's moving here. You saw it yesterday, right? Market was moving great. President spoke from the White House with the cabinet, talked about the tariffs on the EU and the UK, and market turned over almost immediately. So that's what you got to be aware of, especially as we're seeing tick go negative here. Another now down 575 on the negative side. Advanced decline has moved up to negative 800 here. And we can see SPY's gone negative. QQQ is now down 40 basis points. RUT down 32 basis points. Dow is holding up a little bit there, the Dow component. If I look at the Spider Selects again to see what sectors are still in the lead, again, we had seen 10 of the 11 were in the green, and in the green pretty nicely in the morning. We now see that 4 on the downside, and the technology, which was one of the leaders in the morning, now one of the losers, down 75 basis points. We also see consumer discretionary down almost 50 basis points. We still see energy has been the winner so far. NRG was up nicely. CEG was up nicely. So those seem to be the ones that are holding up so far. Bitcoin looks like it might lose that 85,000 handle here. So the important spot that I talked about there, we're about to lose that handle again. So Bitcoin not looking strong here this morning. You've got downside to that 200-day MA here. If it doesn't hold above that 85, 330 area, or it doesn't get a quick bounce back there, watch for more slides down to that 200-day MA without a doubt. Whew, hectic day so far. Wow, Nvidia down 2.74% at 127.71. So it lost that 129 handle I talked about. Let's pull this up and see what I'd be looking at next. You're looking at a chance to wick down to the 125 area, and you need that then to bounce back and hold where you can see it did here at that 126.56, and it's continuing to slide here. So Nvidia definitely, wow, going to the downside 2.77. Tesla now down another 2% here. Google now down 1.25%. Meta down 1.14. So the slide across the Mag 7 continues. And when you can see the Mag 7 getting beat up in general like that, and you see the RUT getting beat up, which is the opposite side of that, the small cap 2000 index, that's a broad market sell-off to me. And it's, advanced decline now negative 1400. So we are continuing to see a slide to the downside. I personally don't know what would get it to move until we see PCE tomorrow. This is the kind of day, again, I'd start to put together my wish list, right? What are some things that you wanted to buy and then they moved up tremendously and you didn't get a chance? I know Palantir is one that falls into that group for a lot of people, right? You wanted to buy Palantir, it jumped up to 125, and you said, man, I wish I could buy it again back down in this area where it took off from. Well, guess what? It's approaching that area here, and you can see right now, any move back to this 83.59 area, and then, that's going to be the key support level to keep an eye on. So you got to start to get into the spot where, again, what I call this is the ability to use an asymmetrical trade to your advantage, right? If it breaks below 83.67 or so let's say 83.60, it invalidates the support level that you would have, right? So that means I want to get out of this. Anything in that 80 area, I'm going to get out. My upside, though, is not capped nearly as badly. I got more room to the upside. So you start to get into an asymmetrical area here. These are things you want to look for. Again, I'm not jumping in personally right now. I'm going to let things play out here over the next hour or even more, and then take a look and see what's going on, because this market's a little bipolar right now. But there are things like that I'd be looking at, the Mag 7 for a lot of people. Chip companies, as I mentioned earlier, I like ASML maybe as a recovery play for a longer term play here. I don't know that today's the day. Now maybe I start to target something in that 700 range as a good area to get in there. A lot of people think broadband could be the big winner this year, that, NVIDIA had its year last year and Broadcom's set to do it. Do you start to like that? Again, you got a gap fill that it did here. We know, a lot of gaps get filled. This one could be one that does here on a breakdown below this 200 level. You could see it come back down towards 180. So, start to put together your wish list. And when I say that, I actually go ahead and put in limit orders on some of these, because it happens quick and, to the point. If you have one or two that you think specifically you're looking to, get a wish list in, don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? If broadband, for instance, AVGO fills this gap and comes down to the 200-day MAA at 178.25, I'm a buyer, then go ahead and put that in. Be ready for it. I can tell you, especially on the crypto side, it has worked out for me tremendously over the years, without a doubt. Man, e-commerce now just getting destroyed, and we can see China moving to the downside even further. eBay getting killed as the one losing the most, down almost 10% on the day. We see Coupang, one of the Chinese names, down 3.21. Mealy down 2.44 today, and all of them down. You've got to go all the way down to Walmart to see anything that's moving to the upside. Walmart, Costco, and Target seem to be the three that are still in the green here. We'll see if they can stay. Tick still negative, down 600 here, so we haven't seen any recovery really come across here. Wow, seeing even colleges start doing hiring freezes, just coming across the wires here. Stanford University is implementing a hiring freezes as colleges and universities across the U.S. confront threat of severe funding cuts from the Trump administration. So again, more worries hitting the markets. See if anything else comes on here. Not really. And tick gone almost negative 1,000 here. So we can see SPY now down, QQQ down 1.14% here. This is, again, there's blood in the streets this morning. And man, you actually don't get a good support zone that I'm seeing here on the daily till you get down pretty far. Again, on QQQ, I'd almost be targeting 500 here. Mag 7, NVIDIA down, now down 4.24% here, 125.70. And again, NVIDIA now down below its 200-day MA again. We don't see that very often. We are just seeing a meltdown across the board here. We have hit the 10 o'clock hour here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull something up. Tick still negative another 800 here. It is a steady slide to the downside without a doubt here. We're continuing to move down. Advanced decline now down over 2,600 here. Sorry, just trying to see. I think I might have our man Mark Petrino in a different room here, so I'm just trying to find okay. Folks, we are going to take a 30-minute break here so I can get my screens reset and get ready for Mark Petrino to come in. So we're going to take a quick 30-minute break here, and we will be back at 10:30 with Mark Petrino.